What's going on, everybody? Today we are going to try something that is probably way out of my league, but I want to attempt to recreate one of the most well-known sniper shots of all time. Carlos Hathcock's shot through the enemy's scope. And yes, I am getting sick again, so I'm gonna try to get through this video before I completely lose my voice. If you don't know, Carlos Hathcock is one of the all-time greatest snipers in American history, and he has some incredible accomplishments. One of the coolest, in my opinion, is the one that we're gonna try today. Now, there's been several movie scenes of scope shots like this. I think Saving Private Ryan has one in it, which is one of the best war movies of all time, by the way, if you've never seen it. Shooter with Mark Wahlberg also comes to mind. I think they have a shot through the enemy's scope as well. But Carlos Hathcock is the only one that I'm aware of to pull this off in real life and actually confirm it. I'm sure it's happened several times in combat, but he's definitely the most well-known, and I think those movies were kind of paying homage to his real-life shot. So it's been a while since I've heard the story, but if I remember correctly, he was in combat during Vietnam, up in his sniper position somewhere, and I think he saw a reflection off of the guy's scope, and that's what gave his position away, which is why kill flashes were invented. So he put his crosshairs on the guy, took the shot, and when they went to confirm the hit, they noticed that the bullet had went straight through the guy's scope and into his eye, which also means if he would have waited one more second, he probably would have been shot, because the only way it's possible to get a scope shot like that is if you're both aiming directly at each other. So it's one of the coolest combat stories I've ever heard, and Carlos Hathcock is an absolute legend. So today we're gonna try and recreate this and see if we can put a bullet straight through a scope into a ballistic dummy lab head. Number one, to see if it's possible with my terrible shooting skills, and also to see if it will go straight through. Will it break apart? Will it deflect? Bullets do weird things, so I want to find out. And by the way, we do have a discount code with ballisticdummylab.com, so if you want to get some of this stuff for yourself, use the code ONESHOTTV at checkout and they will give you a discount. So I've heard stories that he used multiple calibers and several different rifle setups in Vietnam, mainly a Model 70 sniper rifle in 30-06. However, he did also use the 7.62x51 or the 308. I would imagine this shot was probably taken with a 30-06, but we are going to use the 308, which is very similar. The rifle we're using is a Savage Axis 308 with a Harris bipod. Definitely not the tack driver that I would like, but it's the only 30 caliber rifle that I have with a scope, so it should get the job done. Hopefully. Now, before we take our scope shot, we need to dial this gun in, because I just took the scope off to Loctite everything, and for all I know, it might not even be on paper. So we're gonna shoot a couple groups on our paper target here at the exact same distance that we're gonna take the scope shot, and hopefully get it zeroed perfectly, because as you can imagine, this is not gonna be an easy shot, even at close range. We're at about 25 yards, which is definitely not ideal to zero a 308, but taking this shot, I'm just not comfortable going out much further. I would like to be closer than this, honestly, and instead of 308, we're gonna use actual 7.62x51 M80 balls, since this is what the military would use. All right, we're actually much closer than I thought we would be. It looks like we're 2 inches low and maybe a half an inch to the left. And I was aiming at that bullseye right there, and you can see we went 2 inches low and a half an inch to the left. So I'm not gonna take 3 or 5 shot groups at this close range. I'll just make my adjustments and we'll go from there. Close. That brought us quite a bit closer, but still not in the bullseye. And that white circle is about the exact same size as the 30mm tube on the scope we're using. So I really need to get right in the middle of that thing. Closer. Hot brass on my nuts. I'm gonna shoot one more. I think that's about as good as we're gonna get it. All right, our last 3 shots all went in that white bullseye, and they're all touching each other. They're not in the same hole, which is what I would like, but that might not be possible with that gun. So I think I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and set this up and see if we can recreate this epic shot. All right, guys, here's our setup for this experiment. I have an old 30mm 1-power optic that does not work anymore, which is why I'm fine with destroying it, and I've attached it to a Picatinny rail using a 30mm scope ring and lifted everything up using 2 pieces of wood, and all this is screwed into the table. The zombie head is also screwed into the table, and you can see how close the head is up to that optic, just to give us the best possible chance of making this shot. Of course, the optic is probably nothing like what was used in real life. I don't have any Vietnam era scopes. From what I've seen online, a lot of them that they used back then were much smaller in diameter than even this. So it would be a dang near impossible shot to make without a little bit of luck. So hopefully you can see that, just to give y'all an idea of what I'm looking at here. I've never been nervous to take a shot before. If I miss, it's ruined. So I kind of have to get it on the very first try. Bullet is going in the chamber. That is so cool. It's lined up perfectly to where I can see the head straight through the scope, which is exactly what we want. We definitely hit it. I don't know if it went straight through. Let's go find out. The problem with trying a shot like this is it's such a small target. Even if I do everything perfect, the accuracy of the gun could still cause us to miss by 1/4 of an inch, which would be enough to completely throw it off. But it looks like it went pretty much perfect. And looking through the optic, you can see that both the front and rear glass are completely blown out, which leads me to believe that the bullet did pass straight through. Now, obviously, when you shoot anything like this, there's going to be some collateral damage because a .308 is a pretty powerful round. So it completely blew off the entire front piece. And if you go over here, you can see that our scope ring got ruined and it kind of exploded the optic on that bottom left. But I don't think the bullet curved and came out right there, because it definitely looks like it went straight through the eye. I'm gonna try to get this out of our way. Give you another look at the bottom of the optic where that .308 completely exploded that thing, and again, there is no glass left on the front or the back. And if we look at the ballistic dummy head, you can definitely see where that bullet passed straight through the scope and into our head. And there's a better look at that left eye that unfortunately was behind the scope. You can see the entrance hole is pretty gnarly. I'm sure there's glass and everything else in there. Now, it's kind of hard to see, but if you go around to the back, there's only one exit hole, and it's right there. Oh, he's falling over. Okay, well, the head just fell apart. But now we can actually see inside of this thing, and hopefully you guys can see it. There are quite a few bullet fragments inside that ballistics gel. Like, that thing completely came apart. It looks like we had one piece that did pass all the way through, but a large majority of it did not. And it did break apart and stop in the ballistics gel. There is the copper jacket right there. And you can see where it went through on that right side and almost completely split that thing in half. So no doubt about it, the .308 going through a scope is still definitely lethal. I'm sure none of us are surprised by that, but I have to think if the scope wasn't there, it probably would have stayed intact and just zipped right through. I don't think it would have broken apart like that. Either way, that was awesome, and I am pumped that I was actually able to make the shot. Even at 25 yards, that was a nerve-wracking shot to take. I can't imagine pulling something like that off at a 1/4 mile or however far away he was. Of course, there was some luck involved. I doubt he intended to do that, but it's still awesome, and it's just one of them things that adds to the legend of Carlos Hathcock. All right, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Of course, we all knew that something like this was possible, but making it actually happen is a totally different thing. And it looks like the bullet did go straight through the optic and into our ballistic dummy lab head. I was curious to see if the bullet would stay intact or break apart or deflect and exit out one of the sides. It looks like it did go straight through the optic, and then once it hit the head is when it kind of broke apart. But we did have one piece go all the way through, and the damage was absolutely incredible. I also want to thank the viewer who kind of pushed me to make this video. This is an idea that I've had for quite a while, and I just assumed that other gun tubers had already done it. And maybe someone has, I'm not really sure, but he reached out to me on Instagram and said he would like to see it. So I thought, what the heck, I'll go ahead and try it, and I'm glad I did. This was an absolute blast. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know down in the comments below, and if you want more content, channel updates, and stuff like that, of course you can follow me on Instagram as well. Links for all social media will be down in the description box below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.